Hey, I'm Scott, and today this is a walkthrough of the brand new Lilmon 5 from OSEE. This is a touchscreen monitor, so it's a brand new operating system from OSEE. So we're going to take a look at it, make a couple comments on how it compares to their old operating system, which was one of my favorite, and just see how it works. I did also film an unboxing video, but I feel like it was a little bit boring, so I'm going to just give you a really quick high-speed version of it right here as I'm talking, so you can kind of see what this looks like physically, since we're not going to take too much time to go into that today. One thing to show you physically though is that there is only one button on the side here, and that's the power button. And if you push it once while the monitor is on, it will lock the screen because this is a touch screen. Push it once again to unlock the screen. So if you're touching it and it's not working, that's probably why. Otherwise, this now has nothing plugged into it, so we're going to go ahead and plug in a camera. But before that too, I do want to comment that this is almost the lowest brightness of the monitor just to work with the exposure of the camera recording. This is, I believe, level 2. You can swipe your finger up and down on the side here to adjust the brightness. Again, this is level 2 here. I think that seems to work kind of the best with the exposure settings on the camera, but this is a fairly bright monitor. Okay, so hopefully you can see this clearly enough. There are a row of icons at the bottom. There's also a row of information at the top. If you tap the screen, that can go away so you can see a full screen vision of what you're recording. Tap it again to bring that back, and this is going to be your control panel situation. So before we dive into the stuff at the bottom, we're just going to look at the settings first, which you can access by hitting this little cog wheel on the bottom left. So along the bottom, there's a row of different sub-menus, I guess you could say. And then right above that are the things that you can adjust within that sub-menu. And you can swipe back and forth to kind of scroll through it. So backlight, you can also adjust here. As you can see, like I said, I have it set to 2. We also have our volume here. And you can also set that by scrubbing your finger up and down on the right side of the screen if you don't want to have to dive into this settings menu to adjust it. For rotate, this is the screen rotation. I have it set to auto rotate right now. So if you flip this over, it will automatically flip the image to adjust the orientation of the monitor, which is the best, but you do have manual settings here with 0 rotation. And now this is confusing. 180 degrees rotation. This is back to auto screen rotate. So you have manual and auto options. Auto usually works great unless you have your camera in some weird configuration that's kind of throwing it off. You can also rotate just the image instead of the whole screen. As you can see now, the image itself is flipped, but the monitor is not. So again, if you have your camera in some other setting and you want to see the image upside down for whatever reason, your camera's upside down perhaps, but you have the monitor in this configuration and you want to obviously see the menus and everything in the way that makes sense, you can adjust that independently as well. You can then also have the option to mirror the image, so left and right. It's not a flip, but it's a mirror. And so in this submenu, you can see there are no little arrows on the end, which means there are no additional options as you want to scroll through them. But you'll see that in additional menus, if you do see these little arrows on the end, that means that you can scroll through and there's more in that submenu. Next up, we have status bar, which is the status bar in the top. So now obviously it's on. You can also turn it off. So that way, even if you have these functions at the bottom, you have a clear view at the top of the screen. So personally, I would just keep it all on or all off by tapping the screen like I showed you before. But you do have options to show things like just the battery level only on the top there, or all of that information, what kind of signal you're getting in from the HDMI, for example, and all that stuff too. The My Set up here we'll talk about after. That's the kind of page program that they have built into here, where you can build different pages with different sets of assist functions in each page. So you can see which page you're on right there. But you can adjust that. And then probe down here. This is another interesting one that I really like. This is referring to the scopes, the waveforms, the vector scopes, things like that, and whether or not they are representing the image before or after the user LUT is applied. So you can apply user LUTs in here. You'll load them in with an SD card. I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. But you can physically choose whether you want the scopes to monitor the image before that LUT or after it. So often you want to see the image with the LUT applied, so visually it looks like what you expect it to look like. But you want to monitor the exposure levels, for example, before the LUT, because you want to expose the image as it is appropriate for the log format that you're recording in. Sorry if that's a poor way to explain it, but if you do want to have this option, you'll probably understand what I mean. So now you can see we've got this little arrow on the side, so we're just going to swipe left, and you've got some more options. Range, there's a couple options here, 64 to 940, 0 to 1023, or auto. I'm going to leave it on auto for now. The next option we have is the matrix. Again, I've got it on auto for now, but you've got Rec 601, Rec 709, Rec 2020, and auto again. So again, most of the time auto is probably going to be good for most users, but if you want to go through there and actually manually choose something, then you have that option there in the menu. Color, again, you can set here specific for your camera what you're filming in. So for example, log style, I'm filming on Sony camera with S-Log3, and I'm in Rec 709, but you can adjust this here, and we'll see later that that will come into play in some of the assist functions that we have. So keep that in mind here. You can set your camera and log style in this custom menu here. Next up is user LUT. So again, like I said, you can load custom user LUTs in here from an SD card. They recommend under a 16 gigabyte card, but I was able to get it to work with a 64 gigabyte card. If it's not working, just try to reformat your SD card using a different format. It might differ depending on whether you're using a Mac or a PC. But again, I got it working with a 64 gigabyte card. So here I have loaded in one LUT in the LUT 1 spot. I have my card loaded into the bottom here already. Just load your LUTs onto there, just in that base root folder of the LUT of the SD card. When you come to here, user LUT in the little cog menu, just tap on, for example, LUT 2 here, and it will ask you if you want to overwrite 3D LUT 2. So confirm that, and it will bring you to the menu with all of the LUTs that you have loaded onto your SD card. So I am going to choose, you can choose not by touch here because the details are too small. You've got arrows and a check mark on the side here. I'm going to scroll down to, let's say, neutral. So I'm going to check there, and you can confirm that. Click OK. And it just takes a few seconds to write that into the monitor. And now file writing is complete, so just click OK. And that will bring you back to the monitor as it resets. There we go. So now we can see that neutral is loaded into my second slot. So if, for example, I wanted to load that into the first position, LUT 1 instead, then I could just tap on that position and go through the same process, confirm and everything like that. I'm not going to do that for now, but you do have, if you look over to page 2, up to 10 slots available to load custom user LUTs right there. After that, you have pages for support. You've got a QR code here you can scan if you want to see more information. You also have the website and the email listed here. So if you want to get in touch with them, that's all built right into the monitor. Information as well, like your version, your build info, serial number, things like that. You can swipe and see the model that you've got. So this information may come in handy if you want to troubleshoot or get any technical support from OSEE, for example. All that information about your specific monitor is built in right to the menu. And finally, you've got the option for a factory reset if you want. But for now, we're going to click this little arrow here to go back to our main display. And I'm going to double check that my camera's in focus. So a couple things here. Like I said, you have the page set up, which is similar to their old monitors, just now it's touch operated instead of with the little jog dial that they had before. You can see down at the bottom right, there's a little icon which looks like a folder. And if you tap that, you can see a visual display of the different pages you have set up with small icons of all of the custom functions you have built into each one of those pages. So if you forget which page is which, you can see right here which of those custom functions is where, and just choose. If you only have 3 like I have right here, just going one by one is not that big of an issue. But if you have 10 different pages, 8 different pages, then this is a quick way to kind of figure out which page you want to go to. So now we're on my set 2. For example, if I want to click over to my set 1, just click that, and you can see already this display is different because there are some guides turned on here. To go between the pages, you can also swipe left and right. So we're on my set 1 now. If I swipe this way, it'll go over to my set 2, and swipe this way, it'll go over to my set 3. Now, in my set 2 and my set 3, I don't have any of the assist functions turned on, so that's why they look exactly the same. But let's just go through what we have one by one. So you can see in my set 1 that the assist functions that are turned on have a little blue color to them. I hope you can see that on the screen. And the ones that are inactive are white or gray. So you can just tap that to turn them on and off. And if you want to see more options on how to customize each one of those, click the little arrow here, and it will give you the kind of sub menu for each of those custom functions. So here we've got our ratio markers. For example, 2.37 to 1 is what it's set at now. You've got custom, which you can also adjust all the way from 2.5 to 1, and you can actually go negative. So you have options that will vertically adjust that as well, which is nice. You can also adjust the opacity, how clear it is or how black it is outside of those lines. And you have a bunch of preset options as well. For example, even vertical options. Here's 9 to 16 for a phone ratio, 4 to 5, 1 to 1, which is a square, 4 to 3 for a standard definition TV, 1.375 to 1, 16 to 9, 1.85 to 1, 2.37 to 1, which is the cinema ratio. So you've got a bunch of options in there, both preset and custom, which is really nice. And then while you've got this submenu displayed, just click on any of these and it will show you the customization for each one of those. Here we've got, but keep in mind, like this here, it's not active. You can see it's like white or gray color, so it's not active. So even if I make adjustments, you can't really see what's happening. So if you want to see what's happening as you're making adjustments, just close that submenu, and then you can tap that to turn it on, reopen the submenu, make sure you have the right one selected, and now you can see as I turn it off, as I turn it on. This is action, safety guides, and they also have title here. So it's a little hard to push this without moving the monitor off and on. So make sure if you want to see the results as you're adjusting them, that you have that assist function active. So I'm going to turn these first two off here just so we can see a little bit more clearly. And I'm going to turn these on one by one. Here, it's pretty light, so you might not be able to see it, but this is the center marker. Again, make sure that the correct assist function is selected in that submenu. And for center marker, we have cross style or hollow style with a little open spot in the center. You can adjust how many lines you've got here from 2 by 2 all the way up to 9 by 9. This is your anamorphic. Sorry, it's really hard to do this with the camera in front of me. Anamorphic adjustment desqueeze options. So you've got 2 times down to 1.33 times. And you can also magnify that image once you've desqueezed it. Now this is our LUT option here. So this is, you've got some, again, presets. And then of course we talked about those user LUTs that are built in. Here, the presets will kind of follow what you have set in the settings. Like I said, I set Sony S-Log3. So we've got some options for HDR soft clip. This is the user LUT, which we'll look at in a second. SDR soft clip, HDR soft clip. So those are going to be related to what you have programmed in the custom menu for your particular camera and log settings. But now on user LUT options, I'm going to choose my user LUT. So I'm going to move over to user LUT 2, which is my neutral. So you could see hopefully that changed a little bit as I went from user LUT 1 to user LUT 2. So I just tap that to kind of cycle through what you have built into there when it's on the user LUT option. So you can see here the name of the LUT that you have programmed in here. Again, LUT 2. If I don't remember that, I can see here it's the neutral LUT. So you can remember which one you're using. And there's a little arrow, so you can also scroll to the side and have the option to adjust how intense that LUT is. So for example, if you want to apply the LUT, but you only want to view it at 50% or something like that, you can adjust the intensity of that LUT, which is actually a really cool option to have. Sorry, again, I'm all thumbs here, literally. If you want to add more or delete some of the custom functions from here, kind of customize your custom page, click the plus, and that will bring up the list of all the different custom functions that you could add into here. And also you'll notice the little ones that are already built into your set have a minus sign next to them. So if you want to remove any of them, just tap that. Well, this is open and it will ask you, do you want to delete anamorphic in this case? Click OK. And now anamorphic is gone. So you can add and remove custom functions from this menu just like that. Now we'll go over to My Set 2 to show you a few more of these custom functions that are built into here. This first one here, tap that, you've got all scopes. Again, you have to kind of clear the screen to be able to get a full view of them, but you've got your vector scopes, histogram, audio, meters, and a waveform down at the bottom. And again, click the arrow, you can customize everything here. So you've got different types of waveform, which is down the bottom. You can't see it right now because it's hidden, but you've got the RGB waveform, parade type. You might be able to see the little red, green, blue lines that just barely pop up over the submenu. And you've got the Luma waveform. So you can cycle through which type you want. Your vector scope you can customize as ×1 magnification or ×2. So ×2 might help you to see those values a little bit more clearly. Same for the histogram. You've got options for Luma, RGB, and if you scroll to the side, you can also adjust the density, which is again like the opacity. Let's turn this off and go to our second option here, which is our false color. Make sure you have that selected when you want to see the submenu. Now here we've got this follow camera style. So like I said, we have set in the submenu options for, in this case, Sony S-Log3. So this will follow that. So this should give you some values that are significant for that particular log setting. So you can see right down at the bottom here, you've got your kind of scale. So you can see that, for example, purple is clipped black, and you've got the little kind of dark blue section, which is going to be right around, I don't know what it is, let's say 0 to 5%. And then you've got values here for perhaps middle gray, skin tones, things like that. You've got your white and your clip at the top. So those, it's not like a full range of false colors, which might be confusing, especially for people who are not used to it. This will give you those kind of target values for your particular log format, which is really useful and really quick to just judge your exposure very quickly. If you have a gray card, for example, or if you're filming people, you can really quickly and accurately expose their skin tone. So that's nice to have that option. And again, that's the follow camera style. But you do have other options, for example, spectrum, which shows you that whole spectrum I just talked about. And then you also have custom. So you can set the black clip for what value you want that to be at. You can set near black, which is what they call it, where that point ends. You can set tone 1, which is, like I said, you have 2 tones, maybe middle gray and then skin tones. The minimum and the maximum for that range of that first tone, in this case green. Also the minimum and the maximum for tone 2, which is in this case that pink color. And then you've got your near white minimum, white clip minimum, and then we're back to the beginning. So you can really, really customize your own custom version. So even if, for example, the recommended values for S-Log3 are whatever they are, if you found that you like exposing a different way for your particular LUT, for example, then you can customize your own simplified version of false colors into this monitor. So that's really handy for getting that really quick and nice exposure. And this is just really detailed, and I believe this is actually more customization than you get in their old monitors. So not only is this touchscreen, you do have a lot more control over customization of things like this, which is really, really great. And then anyway, we can go back to follow camera style for now. And we'll go over to our zebras. Now this is, again, fairly similar in its customization. So here, again, you have 2 values, and it might be hard to see the difference in color here, but there are actually 2 different colors of zebras, and you can customize the minimum and maximum range points for each of those. So there's 1, 2, and you can really customize that. So if you want to have zebras, for example, on your white clip, but you do also want to have zebras, for example, skin tones. So it's another very quick and useful exposure tool, assist tool. And it's nice that you can set both of those, which is really, really cool. So now you've got your waveform only instead of turning all of them on at the same time. And again, you can, sorry, let me choose that. You can choose RGB, Parade, or Luma. And you can also choose the size of it from large all the way across the bottom, which you can see down here, or small. And then if it's small, you can choose also if you want it up in the top right, or bottom right, bottom left, top left, things like that. So scroll over to the other page. You've also got the density for it, that 50%, 75%, 100%, or 25% density, like we said, and also the opacity. So density is how intense kind of the colors, or in this case it's white, appears on the waveform, but opacity is how opaque the actual graphic is itself. Come over to vector scope, and it's again a very similar thing to what we've seen before. You can choose the position, you can choose its gain, which is like we said, 1 times, 2 times. It will kind of magnify it. It might be easier to see your values represented there. You've got the density again and opacity. So very similar to what we saw for waveform. And then again, with our histogram options, we've got Luma and RGB, the position and the opacity. So now we're just going to swipe through to our final page, My Set 3, which has a couple more of these options built into it. Turn on this first one. This is my focus assist page kind of. So we've got, I'm not sure what they call it, peaking or focus assist. But you can see the color here that came into play. You can change that color in the submenu: green, red, blue, white, and back to red. You can adjust the sensitivity. Now I have it on 2. As you dial it up, of course, it gets more sensitive, but that might also be harder to really see where your pinpoint focus is. So you got to find a good balance. And then you can also choose the background to have color, or change the background image to black and white, so you can only see that focus assist. So if you have a very colorful image and you find that that focus assist color is kind of blending in and it's hard to see, you can turn the background black and white, so that way you can focus more on focusing. The other option we have here is, again, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but going to that page, it's just an intensity dial. So this is like basically the sharpness of the image, and it's just another thing that makes it easier to focus. I don't know how well you can see this. You probably can't see this at all on screen, but it just kind of crisps up the image a little bit. And the reason I have both of these on the same page is that because when you use them together and kind of play around with the combination of intensity on both of them, you can get a really nice combination that makes you get a really nice sharp image, and then the focus peaking, the color, is applied to that. So you can really get a very easy pinpoint accurate focus assist using a nice combination of this. And it's going to depend on things like your depth of field and whatever your personal preference is, how accurate you are. But you can really kind of play around with the intensities of both of these in combination with each other. And I've always liked how that works in comparison to other monitors, which only have one or the other. Usually this color assist and maybe some intensity adjustment, but it's not as much as you get here, not as much control as you get here with the combination of these two. So I believe that's everything. We looked at the aspect ratio, the safe marker, center, crosshatch, anamorphic options. We've got false color, zebra, waveforms, vectors, histograms, focus assist, and peaking, which are those two which I just talked about. The look is your LUT, multi-scopes, which is when you've got all those scopes built into one screen. Your audio meters, I'm not sure we actually looked at that specifically, so we'll add that in real quick. And that's it. So we're going to close this out. Let's turn on just the audio meters and look at the customization for that. You've got the position and the opacity. That's it. So there's not much to there. There's no size adjustment, which might be nice to be able to make these bigger if you wanted that option. But other than that, you've got a ton of customization in all of these different things. So hopefully this walkthrough kind of gave you a little bit more insight into how to control that. So if you have any questions about how this works, let me know down below. But I think that I covered pretty much everything. And again, if you want to see more of the details about just physically what this has to offer, specs, things like that, that's all stuff you can find on the website. But again, if there's something you can't find, let me know down below and I'll do my best to get back to you. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Thank you for watching to the end if you're still listening to me babble on. And I will see you next time.